Hi, John. This is Eric from FretlessBass.com. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Where are you?
I am calling from Boston. You're in LA right now?
I am.
Well, I just wanted to thank you for taking the time to speak with me today about fretless bass and other things.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised, because I'm not really a fretless player. I'm like a lapsed fretless player, and so I thought, but I love bass, so I thought I'd give you the opportunity to make your case.
Well, I've read that about you, that you don't consider yourself a fretless bass player. But I guess there are a few songs that you did play fretless on in the past, and one that comes to mind is Lonely in Your Nightmare off of Rio.
Yeah.
And that's a song that's just really been an important one for me, and one that I always go back to. It has a great fretless bass line, and I feel like it's a bass line that only would have been written the way that it was just because it was done on fretless. And something we try to emphasize on FretlessBass.com is even if a player has only one or a few memorable fretless recordings, they're still significant if they're done well. And Lonely in Your Nightmare, in particular, is such a great example of fretless in a mainstream song.
A shout out to the fretless bass world.
Yeah, and it just shows how unique the instrument is in that kind of setting.
Well, it's nice because that age, one is just trying every trick in the book, to be noticed, to express something. And whereas I wasn't a serious fretless player, I was aware of it. I liked Mick Kahn a lot. I was a big fan of Japan. And so I kind of knew what could be done. There's an emotional, harmonic thing that can be achieved on a fretless that can't really be achieved with a fretted bass, and I think I just took the opportunity with that song to sort of really work something out. There's a little bit on the next album, but then after that I really left it alone, and I think it's just the way the music went.
So in addition to Lonely in Your Nightmare off of Rio, you played a couple of songs off of Seven and the Ragged Tiger. I think Tiger Tiger and The Seventh Stranger. What fretless bass were you using back then?
The Aria was the first bass, my first serious bass, and I used that on the first two albums. So it would have been the fretless equivalent. And I may have this completely wrong. It may have been, I think it's like the SB600 was the single pickup. So I think by the third album, I'm using the 1200.
Have you had many fretless basses?
No, I haven't. I've got an Ash here that I like. Do you know the Philip Kubicki? Philip Kubicki was a designer at Fender, wasn't he? Whether I still have it or not, I've been a bit cavalier with my guitars over the years. They've kind of come and gone. But for a while, I did have a fretless Kubicki. And I've got an old German upright. When I feel like punishing myself, I'll play for a while, But also, silly as it may sound, only just recently did I come to appreciate flat wound strings on fretless. And I always used round wound back in the day. It was just a round wound moment, the 80s.
I personally love flat wounds, but they're definitely something you have to get used to.
Yeah, I think that, it's a transition. When I have an instrument with flat wounds, I feel like, holy shit, I'm all at sea here. It's a different experience. But recently, I've come to enjoy it.
Lonely in Your Nightmare has a really thick, strong, beautiful chorus effect to the bass line. Were you using pedals back then?
I was using a chorus pedal. This was sort of before pedal boards, really. But I had a flanger and I had a phaser and I had a chorus. That was it. They went together, like Coke and fries, the fretless with that kind of softening chorus sound. To me, those two sounds went together.
I agree. It's a sound of those times, really.
Yeah.
I had seen a YouTube clip of you playing Lonely in Your Nightmare live. I think it was from 2007. And it looked like you were playing a Fender Precision with a maple neck.
That's the guitar I've got in the studio at the moment. That's my sort of go-to instrument. I didn't have the Aria anymore. It was a loaner from an instrument rental, and it just had a really nice feeling. So I think I bought it from the rental company. And so, we were playing we were playing Tiger Tiger on that tour as well, and so that's actually the fretless instrument that's sitting in the studio at the moment.
How do you like playing Fretless live?
I enjoy it. You just got to be on your toes. I mean, I don't play anything very complex, but whatever it is that you're playing, you've got to be more mindful on Fretless. You just have to be. I'm actually talking about it. I'm thinking it was kind of nice and maybe something that I'd want to do again in the future.
Well, I hope you do. How has the recording process changed from those first 2 albums to today?
The first couple of albums, were both done along in the same way, and in that the songs were kind of demoed, they were kind of written, some of them had been performed live. So when we entered into the studio, we were really entering into the studio in order to perform to the best of our abilities the songs that we've written. And I think there's been this kind of evolution. One is, the luxury that comes with no definite schedule, where you've just got your own studio and you can kind of, take as long as you want. The song starts to evolve on tape. Those sorts of things started to happen on our 3rd album. But now, there is no demoing. There's just the doing, and everything is non-destructive. But at the same time, everything you do equally could be completely turned upside down the following day. So, a part, just because it's recorded, doesn't mean it's going to stay. The first couple of albums, again, it was like 16 tracks, bass, drums, guitar, a couple of keyboard tracks, a couple of guitar tracks, vocals, a couple of vocal tracks. Essentially, that was it. And now there's a lot of, it's like texture. 10 tracks of bass textures, 30 tracks of keyboard textures, and you're just sort of building it in. But then again, also, the challenge is to not be generic. There's a temptation to let the instrumentation be sort of overridden by samples, technology, and if you're not careful, you'll find you've got exactly the same bass sound as any number of other contemporary artists, putting out music.
Duran Duran has been together since roughly 1978. That's nearly 40 years. Most musicians would be happy to have a career that spanned 5 or 10 years.
I think that we've been doing it a long time, and you have very different challenges. We tend to look towards the Beatles story, the Jimi Hendrix story, we look at these like blinding light experiences within our industry, and working together with a crew of guys, that you've been working with for 30 plus years. As far as I'm concerned, those are uncharted challenges. I tend to find myself looking towards elder artists more than ever now, and saying, how do they keep their vitality? How do they keep their interest? I mean, why wouldn't you have lots of energy and ideas? And, when you're 20, it's like, how do you have energy, ideas, and, excitement about the art when you're 60? That's what I'm interested in. Some days we talk about, what the next album is going to be like, and some days I think to myself, well, if that was the last song that people heard me play on, I'd feel good about that. Have thoughts along those lines. I think that's sort of natural, really. I think that you get to a certain point in your life where you do start thinking, like every time I go on stage now, it doesn't matter where it is, or how many people we're playing to or what the circumstances are. I think you've got to make this a good one, because if it was the last one, you don't want to be left with a feeling like, I threw it away. You always got to play for real, More and more now I'm appreciating the privilege of being a musician. I don't know how I've done it. I don't know how we've done it, sustained careers in music as writers and musicians, but we have. I've seen so many great musicians fall by the wayside, We've managed to stay in there, and I think that you become more and more aware of the privilege and the fortune of being able to do that. So.
Well, I know you're busy, so I just wanted to thank you for taking the time to speak with me today. I really enjoyed it. Thanks again.
Oh, great. No, thanks, Eric. Thanks a lot.